would like to welcome everyone, wherever you are around the world, to In a Corporate World, Are You Corporate Material? The daily sessions and tip, they started like one tip a day and ended up a series. And then at the end, and today we are hosting a very special guest who is kindly and generously accepted to join us from New York to share her expertise and her knowledge. Let me brief you about our guest, a very interesting lady, Lishawn Alexander. She's actually the CEO of Lishawn's Consulting. You can follow her page, and I urge you to do that because she's posting daily tips as well. That's where we decided to contribute together. Lishawn Alexander is dedicated to building and enhancing the community's capacity to create positive, lasting social change in government and beyond. Lishawn has a deep commitment to providing much needed support to local nonprofits to achieve better governance, financial management, and legal compliance to improve the overall strength and sustainability of the entire community. By the way, I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're supporting the NGOs and the nonprofits, because this is really, I feel, it's the mission of every one of us. We're going to discuss.
Absolutely. We're all humanitarians. And
exactly.
Yeah. Our world is a...
She has worked with thousands of leaders and organizations throughout New York City, helping them achieve higher accountability and oversight to better serve the needs of New York's, of the city's most vulnerable population. As a New York Port Authority, etc., vendors, she's going to explain that to us. Ms. Alexander is a small business vendor with a big vision. She, and this is my love here, something else that I love, she incorporated her business, Lishawn's Cupcakes, that we're going to be discussing later, established in 2012, and her Lishawn's Consulting in 2019. So she's going to be telling us more about that in a bit, but not the cupcake. The cupcake business, I'm leaving it towards the end. So, yes, it's very interesting. I even once won a recipe that went worldwide. Anyways, Lishawn has extensive experience working with executives, government, policymakers, task forces, students, youth, and teams throughout her career, and is an expert in helping nonprofit reach new levels of performance. This is something probably we can do another time as well, if you would like, the nonprofit, because it's really excellent. Yeah. She has in-depth hand-on experience in housing, media, legislation, contracting, and compliance. For additional biographical information, you can visit her website, www.lishawnsconsulting.com. I will add it to the comments later.
Okay.
Ms. Alexander has worked with a variety of organizations. Now, Ms. Alexander is CEO to 2 companies. I guess there is a lot more to know about Ms. Alexander. How about we invite her to introduce herself and the rest?
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Lishawn Alexander, from here on, I'll call you Lishawn. Okay?
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Badiaa. It's such a pleasure to be
How
here.
How about you start telling us more about the multitasking, Jill of all trade, as I call you, okay, with what you're doing.
Yeah, so one of the things is I was very, privileged to be in a position to start working at the mayor's office, over a decade ago, under the Bloomberg administration. And so Mike Bloomberg was a philanthropist. And, you know,
Yes,
a lot of the work in terms of philanthropy near and dear to him. And so the city had this one role where, you know, they wanted to support nonprofits and help them be sustainable during a time in the city when, you know, there were lots of financial challenges. And so for me, it was a great opportunity to be the first in my role, right? So there was no one there before me, right? So that's always a great place to be, especially for creative like myself, and someone who's really open-minded, and not so much into the bureaucracy, because, you know, at that time I was much younger. So, you know, not understanding how bureaucracies really worked, but being open to being the change you want to see. And
exactly.
so in the role I had, you know, it was important for us to support the nonprofit community, as well as oversee them, right? And, you know, as a parent, you have those roles, right? So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have to, you know, oversee your children, right? But you also have to allow them to be themselves and be empowered, right?
Exactly.
So it's a tricky role, right? Because sometimes as the parent, you say no, 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 right? But the child needs to understand the no, the reason for the no, and be able to make that decision on their own to say no, right?
This is a very difficult role, actually, when you feel that you want to step in and protect them, and then you want them to learn. So
Yes.
it's very complicated, but it's life, I guess, as
And
long
that was
as
the
you're
role.
there for them.
Yeah, and that was the role I was in, right? So it's very complicated. You know, what was Health and Human Services organizations, so all different types. We have the daycares, we have the after school programs, we have the homeless shelters, we have, you know, you name it, the whole gamut, right? And so we, you know, were in this unique position where we had to provide support and best practices, but also know that, you know, these are taxpayer dollars. And so, you know, if organizations that received the recommendations for best practices weren't going to be held accountable, that there had to be this, you know, result, or kind of corrective action plan, right? Somewhere where they can work towards that. And so, you know, I really had that great opportunity. And so I think that has made Lishawn's Consulting such a strong company, because we have this very unique and customized perspective in dealing with our clients, right? We provide them, you know, individualized technical assistance, contract management. You know, we bring in, you know, all the specializations and best practice recommendations, etc., and expertise, but we're also their, you know, their partners, coaches,
So
and
you
their.
are there, but you outsource the services needed if you feel the need to do that, which is
Absolutely.
perfect, because this is what community is all about. It's a matter of people coming together and doing what is best.
Right. And building out a team with different expertise as well, right? So I'm not the
Yes.
financial guru on my team. I lean to our accountant, who, you know, that's her background, right? You know, I'm a writer, but, you know, there's also writers on the team, right? So you kind of build your strengths, but you also have individuals with different specializations.
Actually, to be honest with you, my motto on my email has
Hmm.
been there for, like, I'm not going to tell you how far back, because then
Yeah.
I'll be disclosing my age. All I'm going to say, my motto is, together we can change the world and make it a better place. That
Yes.
has been there for ages, because I truly believe that communities are built together to grow together. And this is one of my books that is specialized for kids. I tell them it takes you, myself, and him and her to make a community when we come together. And this is basically what's all that. And from what I read about your biography, I truly felt that you are Jill of all trades, but the good thing is that you are in control of things and you're a good leader. And this is something we're going to be discussing very soon. Leadership and what we're going to be talking about tonight. I would like to welcome all our guests. Many people joined us. Hello to all of you. If you would like, please tell us where you're from, because this will be interesting for us. And if you have any questions other than the one I received, please feel free to post them. Lishawn, I want to ask you something that is really important, because I saw it a lot at school and I saw it a lot at university and I see it a lot in my career. And then I'm one of them who started with one of those emails who are, hello, sweetie, how are you? Or like sweetie at Gmail or Hotmail or whatever. The importance of the professional email address and how early in life should people transfer to have the email, and then we move on to the rest.
I think, like even young people now, right? My niece, she's 11. She has a DOE email, right? It's a professional email. It has her name, I think it doesn't matter how early it is. You can start with a professional email with your name, right? If you want to branch out, to your colleagues and your friends and have another email on the side, that's okay. But I think, just in your even elementary years, your early years, you should have that professional email.
Exactly, because this is the first thing people see anytime you connect with them.
Right.
They start with the name that they received the email from. So this is so important.
Yeah, and especially when it's on your resume, right?
Exactly.
Your name, your email, like that stands out. So if you're hot cutie or what, it stands out. They're looking for a staff member, someone, with a professional profile. So you want your resume or CV to reflect that, right?
Exactly. Let's talk about CV writing. And that is truly, I feel it's something that should be built with time.
Yeah.
But what are the most important aspects that should be reflected and obvious in a CV? Can you help us with that? Can you
Yeah.
direct?
So the most obvious is your experience and your skills, right? Your address, your contact information, that's important. But when folks are looking at your CV, they're looking for your experience. What have you done, right? Why should I hire you, right? What qualifications do you have? Your education is important, right? If you have a degree, it should be listed, right? It's important that people know who you are, right? And what you do and what you do well. So, I like to knit. I like to say that, knitting is fun for me, right? But that's not on my resume, right? Because on my resume, it's crafted for the audience that I'm trying to attract. Now, if I want to be part of a knitting club, and I know that in this particular organization, they're all golfers, they all knit, then I will include that on my resume, right? But for the most part, your resume is really a professional reflection, of the types of jobs that you're really looking for.
Okay, so does that mean that you tailor your resume based, let's say you dance, okay? Mm-hmm. If you are not sending it to a company that's related to that, you minimize it. You don't erase it, you just minimize it, correct?
You can erase it or you can minimize it, because, for example, like I dance, right? But that's not something that I put on my resume, right? Because I'm not applying for a choreography position, right? But if I am, then I would add it, and I would probably keep a lot of the stuff that I do now. So it should be really tailor made, right? For the types of job that you're looking for. So professional, you kind of want to take out some of the fun things
Yeah,
that
some of the fun things. Just
yeah,
keep them towards the hobbies and etc. Even if they're professional, but if they have certificate in that field,
yeah,
it should be mentioned.
absolutely. If you're a tennis coach, that
Yes,
should be on your resume. Every experience that you've done coaching youth, adults, tennis, then it should be included. But if that's
because sometimes people read from that you are either a team player or like
mm-hmm,
a leader or like whatever skills and characteristics that could be taken from that.
absolutely,
Correct?
absolutely.
Okay, when we talk about the skills, can you give us skills? Because people always mix up the skills and don't know how to. Let me tell you, before you answer that question, let me tell
Mm-hmm,
you what I always face with adults and with
mm-hmm.
students. I always face a problem where they don't think highly of themselves. They feel that they need to
Like,
downward things on
yeah,
the CV as if it's. I don't want to be sound cocky. I don't want to sound as if I'm taking pride of myself. Whatever. I always tell them, no, it's you. If you don't think highly of yourself, they will not see how like they will not see your strengths.
yeah,
So I
it's
want to
true.
discuss that a bit, and I want you to discuss what are the skills. When we talk about skills, what should be mentioned under that?
Yeah. So what I like to tell, young people, students, adults going into the career, um, the skills that you have to have should be related to the job descriptions and the career that you have. So if you're public administrator, there are certain keywords and terminologies that you will use because those are the skills that you have to have, right? You have to be able to analyze statistics, right? You have to be able to understand bureaucracies and how they work. You have to be able to understand government, navigation of government, constituent relations. So those terms will be in your skill set because that goes with you
Okay.
the area. The other skills you want to include is, like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. People want to know that you're, equipped to use that. If you use Dropbox, whatever new technology that you're really good at and tangible, SPSS, like you want to include those things. Also, there's soft skills that you want to include, right? If you're creative, right? That's a skill, right?
Yeah.
People don't understand that, when you don't think out, when you think outside the box, that is actually a skill to have, right?
Yes.
There's certain time management, right? You're good at that, right? You're organized, right? Those are skills, right? Now, if you're not organized, I say don't include it on your resume, right? Because you don't want to let someone know on your CV that you're good at something and then when they ask you to do it that you're not, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Even they
important.
will fail during the interview because they might ask them specific those tough questions where they end up not knowing what to say or how to answer.
Yes. And that's why, you can hire someone to help you build your resume, but make sure that resume is honest, right?
Exactly. That's why usually when I talk to people about when they send me, they say, proof my resume, like have a look at it and whatever. If I know the person, I tell her, why didn't you mention X point? Because this is, let's say, very important. This is who you
Mhm.
are. She says, should I mention that? Yes, mention it because like this is such an important skill that will really attract people to you. You are really needed in that institution, especially if you're applying and you can relate it to a specific job.
Yeah.
So it is true. So we're saying you have the soft skills
Mm-hmm.
that must be mentioned.
Must be.
Okay. And what else should be mentioned in a CV?
Any academic skills that you have, right? If you're good
Okay.
at writing, you want to include that. If um, you you excel at math, right? Data is your thing, right? Numbers
Okay.
is your Like people, if I'm looking for a data analyst, then I want to see that you're good in numbers, right? Because that's what I'm hiring for. If you tell me you're a good writer and that's not the position that I'm looking for, then it's not a match. So, you know, whatever talents that you have with regards to the opportunity that you're applying, you have to list them. You just have
Okay.
to.
And basically look up the job you're applying to and what are the requirements that will be usually listed between the job description,
Yeah,
and mention the points that are related that you are good at and that are
exactly.
related within that.
Exactly.
Because
And even if you don't know how to do everything that is listed, which is a good point that you said, list the ones that you do, right? So a lot of men, they just look for one or two things on that job description that they can do, and then they apply. And then women, when we look at it, we're like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I'm not going to apply. And that's not the way to look at it, right? You can similarly look at it, and if you see two or three things that you can do, you can also apply. Because most of the time, hiring managers know that you can't do everything, right? But there may be some key things on that list that we want you to be able to do, right? It won't be everything. We put that out because that's our everything bucket. That's what we want, right? But that's not always what we're going to get, because you know, not everybody is like me, right? That's kind of good at lots of different things, right? There's some people that are very specific, right? They're specialized in this area and this area only,
and
right?
that alone is something and is enough sometimes, like having someone with good enough background and strengths in one field.
Yeah,
And that field probably it covers a great chunk of the job description. So probably sometimes people restructure
yeah,
the organization or whoever they're hiring specifically to take into consideration that this person, let's say me, I'm good at, let's say, writing social media, and this alone is a huge chunk of the job.
right.
And we need to mention something very important, and this is something I've been talking on the past week on during the sessions. That is technology.
Mm-hmm.
The strengths of technology, and specifically the past year, the past 2 years, COVID taught us that technology became a key thing in our life, and
Yeah,
everyone had to go on technology, from seniors to the young ones who are always better than
yeah.
everyone else.
Even the
They're fast
5-year-olds,
learners.
right, for school.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what else do we want them to write in their CV before we move to the cover letter?
Yeah, so also in their CV, I would add that, you know, they want to be able to include, you know, current and updated contact information. Like the worst thing is when you call somebody and you get that this is the wrong
Yeah.
number. You know, that's gonna throw your CV, you know, out the door. No one takes the second step of, oh, I'm gonna send them an email. It's like, or they
That,
send an email and it bounces back. Then it's out the door.
exactly. How about the picture? Do you feel the picture is needed? Yes or no? It's a big discrepancy on this topic, and
Yeah, I say for the most part, leave it out. You're not applying for, you know, as a, you know, a model, or, you know, where you need a face shot, you know, or a photographer.
TV
They want to see that you can take good footage and shots. You know, for professional resumes, don't include your photo, because it can go against you, as well as go for you. But most of the time, it'll probably go more against you than for you.
okay, excellent. Anything else you would like to specify regarding the CV? What are the divisions of the CV? Can we discuss
Yeah.
that and then we move?
Sure. Yeah. The last thing that I don't think I covered in the CV is the references, right? So you don't want to list references on a resume. You just want to include that your resumes will be References
Okay.
will be available upon request. Yeah,
Upon request.
you
Exactly.
don't want that on your resume.
And we don't mention them, and we don't put the contacts of
Right.
the references. Nothing. We just state that sentence,
Just say
references available upon request.
yes.
Correct?
That's
Okay. So going back to the whole CV, what
mm-hmm.
are the divisions? State them for me, and then we move to the second question.
Yeah. So you have your contact information at the top, then you have your experience. Because the most important thing is that people know that you're able to do what you're doing, what you've done, experience wise. Then you want to
And
include your
experience from most recent back.
most recent back.
Okay.
But you can, with your experience, you can also highlight, the more favorable experience that relates. So, even within that, you can, like if you're just listing, because if you're just listing like you've worked, for data entry and, that's not your highlighted job, right? So you would just put maybe one or two bullets what you did with that. But if you're listing that you were the analyst, the director, the policy advisor, something of that with substance, you can list more bullets, right? And then the jobs that you kind of like did in your younger years that, it's not really like high quality. You can just put, just list them.
Just
Yeah,
list them
just
because it
list them.
shows that you started early, that you're
Yeah.
enthusiastic, that you wanted to develop yourself, and this is
Yeah.
something important.
And it shows that your years of experience. So it adds to that,
Yeah.
right? So instead of 5 years experience, now you have 10, you volunteered in the library, you volunteered at the, food bank, you volunteered at soup kitchen, just list it, right?
Actually, you know what? This was one of the things I was discussing yesterday. It was about like why you chose this major or this university. Okay, and I told them volunteer into as you are in the young age, volunteer early on in different companies,
Mm-hmm.
so you see the flow of the job and learn about what you want to be, and like what is it that you want to be in food and beverage, what is
Yeah.
it that you do if you are in let's say in technology, what is IT. There are so many jobs in engineering and in IT and in medicine and in dance and etc. and everything, that really it's nice to know the depth of it so you know exactly which field to go in. And this is
Yeah.
why what you're saying is important about the volunteering. It's years of experience.
Yeah, you should definitely include all of it. And I like to tell students and, even adults who've worked in different organizations, like every job that you've had added value to you, right?
Exactly.
And what you've become. So if you even worked at Burger King as a server, a cashier, you know how much customer service experience you had because of that? Now,
Dealing
for me,
with different
that's like a
customers
real
and their
plus.
difficulties.
Yeah, that's like a real plus. That means you've dealt with the public. You
I
can
know.
deal and handle with any type of customer emergency. Like I could trust you with that, right? Because working in that environment, like
Exactly.
you deal with everybody, So,
Exactly.
when you're a executive or director, some people, work their way up, right? So they'll understand that. But for some people that just had, just executive positions and opportunities, they may not really have that type of customer service, relational piece. And so you're going to need that for your organization. So, it's important that you mention those in your CV.
Anyways, it's better. I always say it's better, whatever job you get as you are
Mm-hmm.
young, it's better to take it and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you as we say, I wish you get at one point to work with a difficult boss, because
Mm-hmm.
it will teach people a lot, to teach them
Yeah.
tolerance, critical thinking, conflict resolution, all the skills they need Probably this is one thing they need to mention, that I worked with ex-boss that was very difficult. But anyways, they cannot, unfortunately.
No,
But this
well,
is good for them.
I think that is a very good point. And that's something that you want to include in your resume. So if you have worked in a very high managerial position where you had lots of conflict resolutions within the organization, within the structure, that's something to definitely list, because then, you know, an employer is looking in that and saying, oh, wow, okay, I could see how she can fit or he can fit in this corporate culture where
communication skills is one of the main things that we should always work on, as early as as we used to do. I used to work on that with the students, to just help them get their things solved and peacefully, to ensure they can move forward in life without problems. Anyways, this is a totally different topic that we will discuss hopefully one day. So after the experience, what is the next division on the CV?
Yeah, so after the experience, I would say your education,
Okay.
right? So whatever level of education that you completed, high school, college, you know, you would list that in the order that you've completed it, with the most recent at the top.
Okay.
And you would include, you know, the skills, and then lastly, like any volunteer experience that you have, and then the references. So that's how, you know,
Okay.
um,
Excellent. So now that the CV is ready,
yes,
we need,
there's more.
I need to give them a hint about what we call a cover letter. When
Yeah.
they're emailing their CV or sending their CV, they always send it blank. It will be nice to put a cover letter. What should be in the cover letter?
So the cover letter, I like to say the cover letter is like your secret sauce, right? So it makes the whole package nice, right? So you want to include, you know, your most recent experience. You know, you don't, it's not like your resume. So you're actually not putting it as bullets. So some people would do that in a cover letter. I would say for a cover letter, shy from bullets, right? This is a written conversational piece, right? You're interacting with your future employer or their HR to let them know that all the things that they were asking for in this job description, that you have it, right?
Okay. And talking about
That
your
you have from that.
product,
Yeah.
something you take pride in, something you've done, your achievement, something really that will strike them to meet you, because this will reveal the person you are.
Yes. It should be personal. It has to have that personal tone, right? And, you know, there's so many samples online. I always say you can start with a sample, but don't copy a sample,
Exactly.
right?
Don't
You're
copy
not that
anything.
person.
I have plagiarism. Now this is personal. How big a cover letter should be? How many words? How many paragraphs? Because sometimes I used to receive things like, "Oh my God, what's that?" And sometimes
Yeah,
I
you
just,
have to have it. It has to be reasonable, right? For someone to read and review, right? So, I mean, you know, ideally, I like to say you don't want it to be too long and wordy. I know some people are just very wordy in general. So for those people, I would say have another friend or someone else kind of help review to cut it down. Um, and then it can't be too short, right? It can't be two sentences. You know, I match
yeah.
this, and this from the job description. Please interview me. Look forward to seeing you, right? It should be at least, you know, two good paragraphs, right? That kind of succinctly says enough about you that when I read it off the page that I'm like, oh, wow, I want to meet this person, right?
Irrelevant whether they fit or not. It would be interesting to meet that
Yeah,
person.
even if, because sometimes, you know, you have a job description of what you're looking for, and then you get this, you know, letter that does not necessarily match what you're looking for, but you see such passion and enthusiasm in it that you're like, oh, I would like to maybe interview you and see how now I could fit you into, you know, my organization and what you bring, right? Sometimes we're blindsided. We don't see what we need until we see it.
Exactly. That's exactly the word I used last week. I said what we get the offer and its blind spots. You need to be careful what to look at, and that's why it's important to keep things like clear, but let them mysterious. Let them want to know you. This
Yeah,
is important.
yeah.
Lishawn, with social media invading our life, people are ending up, I want all candidates to know that many companies worldwide, and I'm not talking in Lebanon only, or in the States, or in Australia, or worldwide,
Worldwide.
chances are that people look you up on social media when they receive your
Resume.
CV.
Absolutely.
How should they prove their social media and clean up the social media identity?
Yeah, no, that's, I would say for it's very, very important, especially, I mean, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, right?
Exactly.
Those three social media networks are what people see when they see you, right? You know, if you have a social media website, and I'm not saying that this is right, but you have only, um, you know, pictures of you with, you know, not being dressed, for example, like, you know, automatically that sends a non-professional tone, right? To the
Or
inter.
night clubbing all the time.
Yeah. I mean, or smoking, or like in that kind of, and it's not that you don't want to share those things with your friends and have those be spaces for things like that, but you don't want it to be over, you know, burden where they're like kind of questionable, right? It's not that, you know, employers are judging you, right? Just only by these things, but it's a part of the package, right? And so if, you know, every Saturday you're posting, you know, you being, you know, wasted, and like, it's not, I mean, I wouldn't particularly want to put you on my team, because then, you know, I'm kind of thinking that you're not going to be very serious about the work that we're doing.
Yeah, the social media image is so important, even like on a political, uh, like it's nice to post your political affiliation, your
Mhm.
religious, etc. But just
Yeah.
don't make it in an obsessive way, unless, let's say, you're posting everything religious and you're going to be a priest, which is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're going, like, don't post it as if like it's me and only me, other people don't exist. Don't be judgmental. Don't
Right.
be like, when it comes to politics, respect people's opinion. How
Yeah.
you reply to people's comment on your page as well is important.
Yeah. That's very important. I mean, and what I like that you brought the political aspect of it there too. And so sometimes what you'll see on, you know, political staff members' pages and politicians will be like, these ideas on my own. So they're personal, right? So they're trying to separate themselves from their office and that culture, because that's something that, you know, as an employee of that corporation, if your values are different, you know, it's kind of conflicting, right? And as an employer, when you see that, then you can say, okay, good, that's their viewpoint, right? That's not our company's viewpoint. And so, nor should you see
Yeah.
that as that. And it's also respectfully, right? Because then it says that this individual is part of this office, right? But their views may be outside of the office, and that's okay to have differences, opinions, right? But in a
Difference of
respected.
opinion, yes, exactly. But it's you need to be careful how much to drag it, to what extreme. and how to respond to comments that are not of your opinion, because
Right.
I don't like to use the term positive and negative. How you respond to difference of opinion. This
Right.
is as well very important, and this is something they look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely, because that tells me as an employer how you're going to react to my clientele and the people that I work with. If your tone is not
exactly.
respectful, then I'm not gonna see your resume or CV and say, oh, I can have you be a part of my team. And it doesn't matter how wonderful your resume and CV is. It may have all the skills and all the things that we're looking for. But if your social media, you know, content wise, it's not, you know, jiving with us, then, you know, that's definitely something we'll look at.
Exactly. And I always tell people, be careful, whatever is posted on social media, whether pictures or comments or statuses, just be careful. You cannot erase it. Even if you remove it, it's already there on the cloud. Probably someone has taken a shot of it. Probably it could be different things. It's
Yeah,
there on the cloud.
it's
So
very,
just
very,
be careful.
very true.
How should candidates prepare when they are called for an interview to meet with the HR or the representative of the company?
You
What
know,
should they prepare for and look after?
yeah, I like to think that people should have at least one or two practice interviews. You know, they can have like a family member, you know, ask questions, you know, interview questions. They can print it out, just so that they feel confident in their responses. Because one of the most important thing, again, what you said earlier, is that confidence, right? When you're in an interview, you know, someone wants to learn about you and who you are. You have to be confident in who you are. If you're
Yeah,
not confident, if you're shy, I mean, being shy is okay, but at an interview, you have to shake all that shyness off, right?
yeah,
Not the time to be shy, right? Uh, you
exactly.
you need to do whatever it takes for you to come out of that shell for that interview, right? Whether it's, you know, drowning in practice interviews for a week or a month, you know, but it's
Exactly.
important. You can't choke up, you know. If you do, laugh it out, bring some type of humor to it, because, you know, the person's hiring a person, right? But they
Exactly.
also have to be able to have enough information to work with.
Exactly. What else should they know about the company before they go to the meeting?
Oh, I research is important. I'm a researcher. I believe that you should know everything about the company, right?
Okay.
Whatever they have on their website, you know, whatever their mission is, their vision, you know, you want to know that, because people like to, you know, hire people that know about them, right? When I'm in a
Yeah.
meeting and someone knows about me and they know about my company and they can give me some insight and suggestions and comments about what I've posted, you know, oh, that's open. That's eye-opening. That's inspiring, right? If you come in and you have never visited my website, and this is an interview, um,
Yeah.
you know, you know, I'm asking, you know, you questions, you have no idea what we do, you know, that's a red flag.
Yeah, it's important. Check, probably they can check as well their activities, their events, because
Yeah.
this will show a lot if they're doing, like, let's say they're in sales, what are their latest products,
Mm-hmm.
how they're marketing it, etc. Depending on the position, look things up and get involved in the whole CV as in the whole website as well, because this you cannot. I always tell them, you cannot work in an institution in your office only. It's an institution.
Mm-hmm.
Although you're in one position, but be everywhere, like
Yeah.
us. You
Oh,
know that.
that's what we love. I mean, like, that's like a real, you know, deal seller. When you're involved in everything, you're like, oh, so how, like, I could have you as this particular job, but you're like interested and you ask questions about all the other parts. we love that, because then it's like, yes, maybe I can expand what you're doing, and you can, and it's both ways, right? So this, what you may be doing now, you may not be really passionate about it. And then I kind of see the fire in something else. I'm like, okay, so we
You
can.
just said a very important word that I told them yesterday. Like when you tell them I can expand on this, never criticize their website, never criticize. Always say I can contribute, I
Mm-hmm.
can add to that, but never criticize the people and the jobs or anything. Just remain positive
Yeah,
because,
no, absolutely. Positive feedback is important. Yeah, you don't want to
yes,
make it on a negative tone and say this is terrible and you should do, no, no, no.
exactly.
Yeah.
What kind of questions should the candidate expect in an interview?
One of the I like to say most interviewers like to have open-ended questions. So it's like, tell me about yourself. Now, when someone asks you that, you should have at least 10 things to say about yourself, right? So
Exactly.
at the interview, you don't want to just say, I'm really, good at this, and then that's it. No, you need to have at least 10 things. Tell me about yourself. I want to hear a lot about you, right? What are your passions? What are your interests, right? And how does that tie into what we're looking for, right? Another question that, interviewers love asking is like scenarios, right? If you're given this type of assignment, what would you do, right? How
Exactly.
do you actually walk someone through it, right? So you should be thinking about those things too, right? So if you put on your resume that you are good at building databases, be able to explain that. How do you build a database, right? What's the first thing you do, right? Is the second, third thing. You don't have to go into detail with everything, but they need to be able to understand that, yes, you do know what you're
Yes, excellent point. And then use terminologies,
doing.
but don't complicate the life of the person sitting across. So let them know that you have knowledge, but don't overdo it.
Oh my God. That's another big thing. That's a good point that you make. Because sometimes like you're looking for someone in that field, but as the executive, you're not the expert at it. But then when they
Yes.
start to really go into detail, you're like lost because you're not the expert.
Yeah, that's why people candidates should know that there will be more than one interview usually. It's
Mm-hmm.
one as the first identity, getting to know the person as an identity for their
Mm-hmm.
corporation, for their company, and then they're gonna go like more into specific technical details with the person in charge. So this is
Right.
important as well to know. Okay, we're gonna reach a very important point, and that is the salary offered and the job offer. And then when they reach it, is it too low? Like, should someone take a low paid salary? Is the title important? The position title? Things
Yeah.
like this.
I don't think a title is really important, you know.
Okay.
Some people really go for titles, like, oh, you're the executive. Like for me and my company, I can make you the vice president, right? But I mean, it's not really, the title should not be what's important for you, right? It should be the work, the great work that you're doing, what you're passionate about, right? Teachers have a title of being a teacher, right? They don't get paid lots and lots of money, right? But they're passionate about it. They make one of the most important impacts in the lives of children
Exactly.
into their adulthood, right? So
Exactly.
that's more important to me than, being the senior teacher of, global network. Like,
Yeah, it's important. What's important
adding
is
these,
to grow with the company, grow with your position.
yeah.
Don't say this is it. I would like to start here. Grow with your position. Prove yourself in the company where you are.
Yeah. And most organizations, they want to pay you what you're worth. Believe it or not, they do want to pay you what you're worth, right? They may not have the resources, at the moment, but if you do a great and stellar job, and I like to tell students when they're young, it's like when you work for a company, you want them to not be able to do anything without you. When you're not there, they should know you're not there, right?
Oh my God, exactly.
It's like, when I, left at the one of the offices that I worked at, at Hunter College, my boss was like, Lishawn, we can't replace you.
That's good to hear. It's
We can get
important.
somebody to do the job, right? But we can't replace you. We're gonna miss you. We want the best for you. We want to see you grow, and we're happy that you're moving on to this next opportunity, this next experience, right? But when you work for an organization, that's what's more important, right? They, don't see yourself as a number. Don't see yourself as, just the data clerk or just the person who sweeps or the cleaner. Or, like, see what, and that's what I love working with people who are passionate. See what you do as your starting point.
Exactly.
It's
It's
like the,
important it's important that it's not your presence that matters, it's your absence. As when they feel your absence. When you're there. But when you're not there and they see, oh my God, she's not here today, I can't move forward with this. So this is important. This is an important statement that you just mentioned. Let them know their value. How about if they are offered a low-paid job at the beginning as young children,
yeah.
as young candidates? You feel it's okay to take it and learn? How do you feel about that?
Well, if you have no experience whatsoever, you haven't had an internship, you haven't had you have to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Get the experience. Let your employer know that you want to grow with the organization. You want to mature there. You want to, you may have an eye on a particular position there, right? It may have someone in that position there right now, but that person may not be there 2, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Some offices have lots of turnover, right? Some of them don't, right? But they may create a position just for you because what bring to the table,
Exactly. And this is so important. I have this student I worked with. He used to work at a supermarket in the office, and then
hmm
he found his way through to become the manager of the floor.
hmm
And then today, as we're talking, and I'm so
hmm
proud of the student, he's in somewhere in Nigeria. He's a
hmm
CEO of a company at age probably 24 or 25. So really, it's a pride sometimes to see people growing simply because they insisted and to learn from whatever position they were in. And he proved himself, and every time he proved himself, the company kept on upgrading him,
yeah,
on the scale,
yeah,
and he reached that.
yeah. No, that's such a blessing, and that's what young people need to thrive for, right? Now that you see that this is something to strive for, right? It's not where you start, right? It's where you end. That's important. And there's no end,
Exactly.
right? There's no real destiny. There's so many opportunities and opportunities upon opportunities, So, it's always good to be passionate about what you do. And, if your job isn't giving you that satisfaction, then you need to find one that does. Right? I feel like you don't want to be in a job just to pay your bills, right? You want to be in a career. Like, it should be a career ladder. It could be a career, like, there's certain things in every job that you're not going to like, right? I used to do some academic advising and at Hunter College, and I used to tell students, well, you have all these nurses in your family. It doesn't mean that you want to be a nurse, right? And you don't have to follow the nurse tradition, right? Are you passionate about helping people in the hospital? If you want to be a nurse, you have to understand there are sides of the nursing field that's not you know, glitter and glam, right? Like cleaning
Exactly.
bedpans and, you know, watching people who, you know, are sick not feel well and you know, take their last breath and all those things. Like these are critical parts. So you want to make sure that you know, you're getting everything in that experience.
Okay, you took me to the next question, but before that, I want an advice to the
Sure.
student on how should one develop themselves? How should a person develop themselves?
One of the
What?
most important ways of developing yourself is education, right?
Okay.
I mean, like I've worked with people who've been in business for many, many years, right? Um, and they've developed expertise through the practice, right? But when they go to college, right, and they've never experienced college before, and you ask them, you know, how does that support your business? You hear the overwhelming response that, wow, I should have been in school a long time ago. It really perfects and crafts your creative energy, right? So it's like with anything, like if you're a dancer, if you really want to do it well, go to school for it, right?
Keep on taking courses, even if
keep
you
on,
feel you can't go back to college. Take little courses that will develop your field and
yeah,
yourself, like
and
in
it,
marketing, like
yeah,
in technology, like in
yeah,
because it will help you, like small courses of accounting sometimes,
yeah.
because it will broaden the mind and your knowledge, and you can cover all aspects of your work. Even it's good to know about accounting even if you're not an accountant.
Oh, yes, absolutely. As a CEO, you need to, right?
Yeah. You need to have to cover everything under your umbrella, at least have the
Right.
knowledge about it. This is so important.
Yeah, you may not know everything, but take a course, you know, learn about,
Exactly.
you know, you don't have to have a degree per se, but learning
Take
is
a
so,
course.
I mean, we learn from like the young people, right? Most people who start off with social media, they learn it from a younger person, right? Because you see it, you're like, you know, or you use YouTube videos, right? There's
Yeah.
ways to do the
Educate yourself the right
yeah,
way, or the orthodox way or the non-orthodox way. Like
yeah,
you just do it. It will help you in your career wherever you are.
wherever you are. Yeah.
Career versus passion. And here I would like to discuss the cupcake business. Can you add on your CV that you're an entrepreneur?
Yes, yes. So the cupcakes is my passion.
Okay.
Um I
Still?
so part of my career is more on the academia side and you know urban planning and you know politics and governance and management and all those things. But I love you know baking. It wasn't something that I you know, started off in my young age of being like a baker. Since I can remember, my mom was like the Martha Stewart, so we'd always have baked
Ah,
goods on the weekends. And, you know, then I had this passion develop for starting this cupcake bakery company. And, you know, my mom was like, well, you don't bake, you know.
yeah.
It has to kind of go together with the passion. But I think my entrepreneurial spirit has always existed. Even at a young age, I was always good at selling items. Where
Wow.
kids with those Girl Scout cookies and stuff. You know, like you're always good at like this. You know, getting people to buy. And I think children in general, people buy from children, but then there's certain people that are gifted for it.
Yes, talkative enough to
Yeah,
attract the
persuade.
audience. Yes.
Yeah. And I seem to be very good at that at a young age. So, you know, my mom
I
was like,
think you
yeah,
still
be
have it.
the business side of the cupcakes. You know, you can do that. And then I, you know, as a businesswoman, I promised that I would be able to deliver on a cupcake order. And, you know, my baker who had, you know, developed this relationship with at the time, I was like, she can't do it. And so then, you know, I went back to mom and I was like, well, I need help. I have to deliver this. I've already agreed to it. And it's just like, well, I'm going to help you this one time, but then you're on your own. And so, you know, that kind of pushed me into my passion. And so now I actually do all the baking for my cupcake company. And so, you know, with COVID, it hasn't been a lot of events because, you know, more things are smaller. And, but, you know, it's one of the things that I love to do as well.
It's okay. We learned different things during COVID and the confinement. That was another lesson we learned in life.
Yeah.
But it's okay. So going back to the point of career versus passion,
Mm-hmm.
how should one like drop their passion if they have like a specific love, a dream to do versus
Yeah.
the career? Your advice on that?
Yeah, you know, when I used to do academic advising, I used to tell my students a lot that go for your passion, right? You know, you may think that being an artist doesn't pay the bills, but if you're really passionate about it and you're really good at it, it can definitely pay the bills, right? Picasso, his paintings pays lots of bills, right? There are lots of really talented artists out there. I know that they're doing digital photos and
Exactly.
images now as well. If you're really talented, it will pay the bill. And one of the things I think in church that they say a lot that it's really true, which is that your gift will make room for you, because whatever you're gifted at, people will pay for it.
And if they're gifted enough and they work on their passion, they
Yeah.
follow it, they chase their dream,
Yeah.
they will eventually go with the flow, because now we see many artists became tattoo
Yeah.
artists, or they're drawing jewelry or many
Mm-hmm.
other things. So basically just keep on drawing until you go with the flow, and at the end you will find
You
yourself
want to,
just drawing and do what you want. But just make
yeah.
sure to have a career that, like whatever you do, make sure you have a balance between both, but never drop your dream.
Yeah, never drop your dream. I believe in that. Never drop your dream. They're just like steps towards it.
Exactly. Any advice, word of advice before I wrap up? Because
Um,
believe it or not, it's been an hour.
my last bit of advice would be for your CV, just to be honest. Include as much as um, you know, have within that one pager. That's another thing. Like some people like to go over the 2 pages and go on to 3 pages. I like to
Yes.
stick to one page. Like,
Yes.
you know, interview a person who's looking lots of resumes. Don't want to go to the back of your resume or look at another page. They just that one page to be you.
They will lose the span
Attention.
of concentration, and their attention will
Mhm.
be lost with the end of the page. So
Yeah.
keep it strong and let them ask you the questions they want
Yes.
during the interview. Lishan, what can I say? I would like to thank you, Lishawn Alexander, for your time and for sharing your expertise.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you so much on my behalf, on behalf of all the audience and those who will be watching the session later. I